Okay, and you're live.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Imagine Your Story with David Shannon, presented by a Carroll County Public Library and a Likely Story bookstore. My name is Debbie Scheller, and I'm from a Likely Story bookstore, and we are so excited to welcome author, illustrator David Shannon with his new book, Roy Digs Dirt. Back in April, before everything shut down, we were scheduled to have David here for some school events and an evening event with the Carroll County Public Library. We are so happy that David was able to join us here virtually tonight. David Shannon is an author illustrated of over 35 books, which include No David, which was the Caldecott winner in 1999. You may purchase any of David's books through a Likely Story bookstore on our website at www.sykesvillebooks.com or by calling the store. David has been kind enough to send us signed book plates for all our customer purchases. So any of his books that you wish to purchase through a Likely Story will include a signed book plate by David Shannon. So tonight, David will be doing some reading and drawing. You can type in your comments and questions during his presentation. And after the presentation, David will be happy to answer all of your questions. Thanks again for supporting all of our events and joining us here tonight. And I'm going to throw it over to you, David. Thank you for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me. How is everybody out there? I wish I could see you. I wish I could be there in person. But unfortunately, I can't. I hope you're all staying safe and sane and not too bored. Isn't it great that it's summertime and you don't have to go to school? So anyway, I was supposed to come to Maryland and read and draw. So I'm doing it from my studio, my messy studio. And I'm going to read Roy Digs Dirt. This is my new book. And Roy really is my dog. Now, some of you may know who Fergus is. Fergus was really my dog too. He's that little white dog that I hide somewhere in all my books. And unfortunately, Fergus passed away a while ago, but don't be too sad because he lived a very long, wonderful life. In fact, he was 19 years old. So I'll do the math for you. That's 133 in dog years. So he lived a good long time. And now I have Roy. And in real life, Roy is the same kind of dog as Fergus. So I had to change him a little bit for this book so people wouldn't get them mixed up. But so they may look alike in real life, but they're completely different. I'll give you an example. Fergus thought he was a human. Roy thinks I'm a dog. Roy is a nut. So, so anyway, and I'm going to keep putting Fergus somewhere in my book so you can keep looking for him. But listen, don't tell Roy, okay? Because Roy thinks it's him. All right, let's read. Roy Digs Dirt by me, David Shannon. Roy digs dirt. He digs dirt before breakfast, after lunch, and before and after dinner. Dirt makes Roy happy. Roy is almost always happy because he is almost always dirty. Roy sits in dirt, he lies in dirt, and sometimes he rolls around in dirt. Roy digs dirt. Roy thinks dirt makes him look handsome. Roy likes to bury things in dirt. He buries balls, sticks, chew toys, squeaky toys, bones, rocks, leaves, pieces of bark, and rawhide twisties. Sometimes he just buries more dirt in the dirt. Roy digs dirt. Roy finds buried treasure in dirt. Buried treasure is exciting. Now, see this big faucet right here? That's a true story. Roy dug up this faucet. It was bigger than he was. It was when he was a little puppy. So we've saved that. That's become a family artifact. Roy eats dirt, sniffs dirt, watches dirt, and listens to dirt. Worms and bugs hide in the dirt, but not for long. That worm's a little worried, I think. Roy's imaginary friend lives in the dirt too. He plays with it and talks to it. Roy named his imaginary friend Roy. And that's a true story too. The only bad thing about dirt is ants. Roy does not dig ants. When it rains, Roy digs mud. Mud might be even better than dirt. Mud is like dirt gravy. Roy does not dig baths. Baths are the opposite of dirt. And you know, I have to wash Roy these days because we can't take him to the pretty parlor anymore. That's actually dangerous. I have to kind of put on special clothes, like a suit of armor. When there isn't any dirt, Roy digs rugs. He digs blankets when he's in bed, and he digs newspapers when he's mad. Roy doesn't like being away from his dirt, so he digs at the back door. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The jungle grows out of the dirt in the backyard. The dirt in the jungle is moist. It smells good too. Roy likes to explore the jungle. It's a good place to hide. And pounce. And Roy really does this. He does a sneak attack thing. He hides in the bushes, and when I walk by, he pounces on me. I told you he was kind of a nut. Critters come to the jungle when it gets dark. Roy barks, "Get away from my dirt!" Roy digs barking at critters. And this happens every night. The constant battle between Roy and the critters. You can see this raccoon is kind of making fun of him. Tonight, there's a skunk in the jungle. Now Roy's dirty and stinky. Ugh. Did I mention Roy hates baths? Now, here's something that not too many people have noticed, is that the spots on Roy's back spell Roy. That's so he won't forget his name. At night, Roy digs in his sleep. He really does that too. He dreams about digging dirt. Every morning, he runs outside to see if his dirt is still there. It's the same old dirt, but it seems brand new to Roy. The whole world is built on top of dirt. Roy digs the world. And that's the end of the story. So, well, there's a little maze on the back too. Can you see the little mice and rats and critters and stuff that Roy's after? So let's draw Roy. Is that okay? So I've got my pad set up over here. And let's see, we're going to start, I'm going to tilt this just a little bit, I think. There we go. We'll start with his ear, which is pointy, because he's very alert. And we'll go over here to his other ear. And that one's floppy because he's goofy. He's alert and he's goofy. And then we'll do his cheek and come all the way down here and over here. And then let's put his nose right in the middle. And Roy has a big black nose. I call it a beezer. I say, Roy, you have a beautiful black beezer. And he does. Color that in. And then his eyes, he's got one eye. And it's looking over there because Roy wants to know what's going on over there. And this eye is looking over here because Roy wants to know what's going on over here too. In fact, Roy just wants to know what's going on everywhere. And then he's got a big smile. And you know, I've read articles and I've seen people on TV that say, oh, dogs don't have emotions. I don't buy that at all because Roy has a huge, big smile, just a big old grin. And he just thinks a lot of things are funny. In fact, he thinks the funniest thing is when he gets in trouble. That's when he grins the biggest. They say, Roy, stop that. And he goes, ha, ha, ha. And then his teeth. Now, this is kind of a funny thing is Roy's teeth kind of look like human teeth, which I think is kind of funny because, you know, if you look at No David, his teeth kind of look like dog teeth. So maybe they should trade. And then he's got a big old tongue right here. And Roy really does. Roy is a very sloppy kisser. And his favorite thing to lick are my eyes. And I go, Roy, I do not need my eyeballs washed. Thank you very much. And that's what he does. There's that. And then here's his collar. And his collar is very important because when it's getting late at night and it's time for him to start settling down and get ready for bed, then we take his collar off. And that's kind of a signal, sort of like when your parents tell you to put your jammies on. So, and Roy's come to expect it now. So all I have to do is say, Roy, collar. And he goes, okay. And sometimes I forget to take his collar off. And he just comes up to me and he goes, okay. And I say, oh, you're right, Roy. It's bedtime. And then here's his little name tag right here. And let's see. Put his eyebrows on there. And his legs, front paws. Like that. So I hope you guys aren't getting too bored. But you know, there's a good side to being bored too. That's when a lot of creativity happens. Because you have to amuse yourself. So that's when I get a lot of ideas for books and stories and stuff, is when I'm kind of bored. So I hope you're keeping a lot of pens and paper and crayons and stuff around the house so that you could write a story or draw a comic book or make up a game. Or, you know, sometimes what I like to do too is I make up new rules for an old game. That can be fun. Now here we're doing his feety paws here. My daughter calls these toe beans. You know, the little pads on the bottom of his feet. I like that word. So there's his toe beans. And we can't forget his tail. There's that. And you know, I don't know if dogs really sit like this, but I'm drawing him on a big pile of dirt here, his favorite spot. And it kind of captures the way he feels about dirt. He just likes to sit in it like that. And so I don't know if dogs really sit like that, but Roy does do one thing. He lies on his tummy and he puts his legs out behind him. And that's called splooting, by the way. All right, so let's see, what else do we have to do? Okay, I'm gonna make him a little scruffy because he's always a little bit scruffy from digging in the dirt. Do that. And I'm just gonna kind of sketch this out and finish it up later and send it to the bookstore so they have it. And you can stop by and see the drawing when it's all finished, but I don't think you want to watch me color in dirt and stuff like that. So we'll do that later. All right. Now, the good part. Oops. We get to add dirt. We got to put dirt all over him. Okay. So let's see. Put a little dirt here. Then we'll put a little dirt over there and here. So over there like that. And let's see up there. You know, and then we definitely have to put dirt on his paws because he's always digging. And, you know, he buries his bones in the backyard like a cartoon dog. And it's pretty funny because once in a while, he forgets where he's buried them. And he gets all mad and frustrated. Says, "Where is that bone? I can't remember where I did. I buried it." And sometimes I know where he buried it because I was watching. And so I say, "Okay, Roy, I know where it is. I'll help you out." And I go dig it up for him. And then he gets mad at me for spying on him. So go figure, you know? You try to help a puppy out. And then we'll put just a little bit of dirt around him here. But we don't have to color all that in. I'll do that later. Okay. And let's see. Now I'm going to put some shadows on him. I have this light blue pen, if I can find it. There it is. And this is kind of cool because shadows give things shape. So you can turn with shadows, you can turn a ball into, or you can turn a circle into a ball, or a square into a cube, or in this case, we're just making Roy look rounder. Give him some shape. And the other thing that's great about shadows is they can make one thing look like it's in front of something else. So if we put shadows in here, that makes his front legs stand out. Can you see that? So that's kind of cool. And then it also, like if we put a shadow under his tongue, instead of his tongue looking like it's hanging flat, it looks like it's sticking out. Same with his collar and his beautiful black beazer. A little under here, like that. All right, and now red. So Roy's tongue is very red in real life. So we'll give him this good red tongue there. And his collar's red. And let's put a little pink on there too, to make it very tonguish. Pink on there. Give him some pink on his ears. And then I like to put just a little bit of yellow in spots where, like, the sun might be hitting Roy. We'll put some yellow in spots. And his name tag, we'll make that yellow so it looks gold. In there. And let's see, a little on his teeth too, because his teeth are kind of dirty from eating dirt. And let's see. Oh, we didn't put any dirt on his tail. We gotta have that because there's dirt everywhere on it. From the tip of his tail to the top of his ears. And then one last thing I want to put on here is a dandelion. I'll put a little dandelion right here. Now, I'm going to draw the kind of dandelion that's yellow and pretty. But Roy, the reason I'm drawing a dandelion is because Roy eats dandelions. Yeah, I know. I told you he was weird. I'm drawing a pretty yellow one, but Roy likes to eat the poofy kind. I don't know why. I don't know if they taste good, or what I suspect is that they tickle his tongue, and he likes that. But if you come outside of my house, you could look up and down the street, and all there are just bare stems of dandelions, because Roy's walked by and just gone hum, hum, hum. So all we got is dandelion stems in my neighborhood. All right. And I'm going to finish the rest of this off later. But there it is. There's Roy in the dirt. So I hope you liked that. I hope you liked the story. And now I got time to answer questions. So here I am.
Okay, thank you, Dave. That was wonderful. What a great picture.
Thank you.
Amber, you want to start with some questions?
Yes. So we have a question here from Jennifer's daughter, Cora. She says, I like your new book. How did you come up with your book, A Case of the Stripes?
Oh, I get asked about ideas, where ideas come from a lot. And, they come from all kinds of different places. I never know where they're going to come from. So I always write them down. I've got a special sketchbook that I write all my ideas down on. I even write down the ones I think are dumb, because sometimes those turn out to be the best ones, or they'll make me think of another idea. So sometimes I get ideas just kind of like magic. Other times I get ideas just from watching my family or my dog. And then I also get ideas from playing a little game that you can play too. It's called the Wouldn't It Be Weird If game. And that's where A Bad Case of Stripes comes from. And what you do is you start out by going, wouldn't it be weird if, and then you think of something weird. Like, wouldn't it be weird if I turned into my sister? That would be weird. Or wouldn't it be weird if my nose was in my armpit? Yeah, that's disgusting and weird. Now, with A Bad Case of Stripes, I woke up one morning and I said, wouldn't it be weird if instead of chicken pox, you got different colored stripes? And that's where, and I pictured the little girl, Camilla Cream, that's on the cover. That was the first thing I pictured, and it kind of stuck with me. And so then I had to figure out why she got stripes and what happened after she got them and how she got cured and all of that. So that's the story of A Bad Case of Stripes. Oh, I can't hear you.
You're muted, Amber.
The questions are starting to come in now.
Okay.
Matt's daughter, Lily, says, I'm 9 years old and I want to be an author when I grow up. Any tips for me?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, first of all, I think it's great that you want to be an author. And you know, I started out as the illustrator, as the person who did the pictures. And when I was 9 years old, I wanted to be an artist. So the best thing to do is, if you want to be a writer, is to write a lot. Um, for me, I drew a lot. And the other thing is to write about things that you're interested in, that you like, because you'll spend more time doing it. You'll be able to picture it in your head better. You'll have more fun. Um, and you know, I like when I was a kid, I liked drawing comic books, and it was before the graphic novel had been invented. So people didn't think that comic books were art, and they said, "Oh yeah, well that's pretty good drawing, but it's not art." And they said, "Why don't you draw something else?" And I said, "No, I want to draw superheroes." And you know, and now with graphic novels, people say comic books are art, which I always knew. And the thing is that I still use all kinds of things about telling stories with words and pictures that I learned from comic books. I use them in my children's books. So yeah, so just do what you like and do it a lot.
Great. Okay, we have another question here. Carrie's 8-year-old daughter, or I'm sorry, I shouldn't say daughter. Carrie's 8-year-old wants to know where you learned all your drawing tactics.
Well, part of it was just from drawing a lot, over and over again. But I went to art school for college. So like I started out, it was kind of weird. When I was a little kid, really little, I liked drawing things like um, Indians and pirates and um, uh, funny animals, stuff, and baseball players. Then when I got a little older, I told you I liked drawing comic books. And so I drew lots of superheroes and supervillains. And then I went to art school for college, where I drew lots of really important things like fruit. That's a joke. And then when I got out of college, art school, I started making children's books. And you know what I was drawing? Animals and pirates and baseball players and all the stuff I drew when I was a little kid. And then finally I drew No David, which was based on the book I made when I was little.
Okay, Noelle here says her son Finn wants to know if your family and teachers told you no David all the time. He has 3 sisters that tell him no Finn all the time.
Well, Finn, you can change your name to David, I suppose, but yeah, I got told no a lot. I had a big brother who told me no. And you know, my mom and dad and my teachers, they all, yeah, I did. I got used to hearing. Now, of course, I still hear no all the time. Only it's my wife that says it.
Nancy has asked, who is David in your books? Is that based on you?
Well, yeah, you know, that's kind of a 3-part question. The first part of the question is this: Is David? Am I David? And the answer to that is sort of. Because like I said, I got the idea for No David from a book I made when I was really little. And it was just drawings of me doing stuff I wasn't supposed to do. And the only words in the whole book were no and David, because that's all I knew how to spell. So, and my mom saved it and she showed it to me many years later. And I said, you know, this might make a good children's book. So I wrote some more words and I drew new pictures. And that's the No David you guys have seen. So he's not exactly me. He's based on me. So the second part of the question is, did I really do all the things David did? And the answer to that is I didn't do all the things David did, but I did some of them. Okay, I did a lot of them, but I didn't do all of them. And that brings us to the third part of the question, which is, and here's where we get down to the nitty gritty. That is, did I run down the street naked? Like I said, I did some of the things David did, but not all of them. Some of them are things that my brother did, or my friends did, or in the case of running down the street without his clothes, that was my nephew. He's the one that did that. And you know where he lived when he was doing that? Alaska. Yeah. Yeah. You know where he lives now? Florida.
Wow.
Okay, we have a question here from Alicia's fourth grader. Her fourth grader is wondering, how long does it take to write a book and get it published? He likes hearing that you start your stories by sketching ideas. He does that too.
Oh, good. Cool. Yeah, you know, sometimes I start out by writing, you know, by just jotting down things in, you know, ideas in words. Other times I start the book with little sketches and the words come later. So I never know how it's going to be. What was the question?
How long does it take to write a book and get it published?
Oh, well, getting it published, you never know how long that's going to take. I also never know how long it's going to take to write because, like I said, it kind of starts out by jotting down ideas. And then if I think of more ideas and more ideas and more ideas, and finally one of those will say, I'm a book. But it takes about a year to do the illustrations. And for the illustrations, I sit down and do the whole thing from start to finish. And that takes about a year.
Another question from Lily. How do you get published?
Ah, Lily. Well, that's a good question. You know, there's a lot of different ways to get published. You can publish it yourself, for one thing, these days. You couldn't do that when I started out because there weren't computers. Because I'm such an old man. But the basic way you do it is you send your story to the publisher, and you know, you just keep at it. I know I kind of got into it in a funny way because I was an illustrator, so I started out doing pictures for other people's stories. And after a while, the publisher said, you know, we like the way you tell stories with your pictures. Why don't you try telling stories with words too? So that's what I did. It was really fun. So, but I know my friends that got started in writing, sometimes they had to work at it for a long time before somebody said, we really love your book. And the thing is that, you know, don't get discouraged if one person doesn't like it because the next person might love it. So you never know. And just, you know, like I said before, do the stuff that you think is good and stick with that.
That's sound advice. All right, we got another question here from a 12-year-old. How did you get interested in art?
I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it. I just always liked to draw. I've ever since I was a little kid, I've just drawn all the time. And my dad used to bring home boxes of paper for me to draw on, and I'd go right through those, and then he'd bring more. And you know, I'm really kind of lucky about that. Is that I have that thing that I love to do, especially these days while I'm stuck at home. It's really not so bad for me because my studio's here, and so I get to draw and paint all the time, and that keeps me occupied. You know, keeps me having fun.
I understand. The art need is strong.
Yeah.
Okay, we got Noelle here. Her daughter Penny is wondering what books you liked to read when you were a kid.
Well, Penny, let's think about that. When I was really little, I loved Dr. Seuss, just like everybody. My favorite Dr. Seuss book was If I Ran the Zoo. because I loved all the weird animals that he came up with. And there was one 2-page spread of the whole zoo where you could find different animals sticking their heads out of windows and hiding behind stuff. And you can see some of that in my books sometimes. And I loved the Terran books. And what else? You know, the Lord of the Rings was a biggie. So yeah, and nowadays I like reading a lot of nonfiction, which is kind of weird. I didn't know I liked history when I was a student, but now I do. I like to read about, you know, biographies and about different people and stuff.
I have a few for you from some of the students that you were going to see. One is from actually the art teacher, and Mrs. V wanted to know what type of medium do you like to draw with? She likes acrylics, but do you use different mediums to draw with?
I do. I've been using more and more different ones. And I wish I had been able to see you, Mrs. V, in person. We could have talked about this. For a long time, well, I do sketches in pencil. And I start out with little tiny, they're called thumbnail sketches because they're about as big as my thumbnail, and they're all scribbly. And I'm just trying to figure out what picture is going to be on which page. And then when I get that figured out, I do full-size pencil drawings. And then from those, I did acrylic paintings. And for years, I worked in acrylics. And then a few years ago, I was getting kind of tired of the same old thing. And I said, well, what can I do to sort of add some more interest? And I realized that my studio was no longer in the house. It's on above the garage now. So I didn't have to worry about stinking up the house with oil paints. And I also realized my daughter was old enough so she wouldn't eat them. So I started painting in oils, and for the first time since art school, and I really loved the way that I love swishing around in oil paints. And then lately, I've started keeping a drawing book too, more than a sketchbook, just lots of drawings. And so I've been drawing in pen and ink too. So like the book before Roy is called Mr. Nogginbody Gets a Hammer. And that is pen and ink drawings. And then I put a little color in with oil paints on that.
Very nice. Also, Danny wanted to know, he loves your Fergus books, and you used to hide Fergus. Are you hiding him in your new book?
I am. I'm putting them in there.
Okay.
Yeah, I just, you know, Fergus was really special. And he would get mad at me if I didn't put him in my books.
That's what he said. He loved finding them when he put
Yeah, and
every
so
book.
he's still in all of my books. Sometimes he is really hard to find. There's a book called Busy Ms. Lizzie that he's really hard to find in that one, but I'm not going to tell you where he is. And then the other thing that's funny is that, you know, there were a few books I made before Fergus was born. So Fergus isn't in them. And every once in a while, somebody comes up to me with one of those books and says, "Where is Fergus? I cannot find him anywhere." So you know what I tell them? Keep looking.
I think we have one more question that we can get to. Amber, do you have that?
Yes. Teresa says that Logan would like to know, what book are you working on now?
Oh, well, I just finished another book about Mr. Nogginbody. And it's called Mr. Nogginbody and the Childish Child. So Mr. Nogginbody is babysitting in that one. And then now I'm working on a book. It's called Maximilian Midas. And it's about a little kid who is in love with gold. And that doesn't turn out so well for him.
Well, thank you so much for being with us tonight, David. It's
Thank
been a
you.
pleasure. That's all the time we have for tonight. We'd like to thank everyone for joining in. This has been videotaped, so let people know. And we have all the books down at the store. And David, as I said earlier, has been kind enough to give us signed book plates. Every purchase will include a signed book plate from David. And don't forget to keep up with both the Carroll County Public Library and our website for all the events that are coming up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, David.
Bye.